Level 5. The Senior Case Officer. The new officer asks if you ever feel guilty. You almost laugh, not because the question is funny, because you remember asking it once. At Level 5, you become a Senior Case Officer. You are no longer trying to prove you belong. You belong too much. Your reputation travels ahead of you. In Berlin, they know you as the officer who saves broken networks. In Ankara, they know you as the one who extracts value from impossible sources. In headquarters, they call you reliable, which is the highest compliment and the quietest warning. Reliable means you deliver. Reliable means you do not hesitate. Reliable means leadership can ask ugly things in clean rooms and trust you to make them happen elsewhere. Your new asset is not like Pavel. Her name is Layla, and she is senior enough to understand the game. She works near a regional security council, sees classified briefings, and knows exactly what her information costs. She does not pretend to be innocent. She wants $250,000, a relocation package, and the removal of a rival who suspects her. Not assassination. Nothing crude. She wants his credibility destroyed so completely that every accusation he makes sounds desperate. You review the request for 3 minutes. Then you approve the influence package. A decade ago, the idea would have disturbed you. Now you ask for timelines. Within 2 weeks, the rival faces an internal ethics investigation based on carefully placed evidence and amplified rumors. He loses access. Layla continues reporting. The intelligence she provides prevents a covert weapons shipment and exposes 2 compromised officials. The math works. That is what scares you when you let yourself think. Almost every compromise now comes with results attached. Every manipulated reputation protects an operation. Every lie serves a larger truth. Every betrayal prevents a larger betrayal. The system gives you just enough outcomes to keep your conscience quiet. At Level 5, you understand the real currency of power. Not money, not rank. Access. Access to secrets. Access to decision makers. Access to people's fears before they become actions. Access to the private version of the world that ordinary citizens never see. You sit in rooms where ambassadors lie politely, generals hide panic behind posture, and ministers speak in careful phrases because everyone knows someone is recording something somewhere. You learn that nations have faces in public and nervous systems in private. You work inside the nervous system. The cost is intimacy. You cannot date honestly. You cannot explain your absences. You cannot tell your family why you miss funerals, birthdays, hospital visits, or holidays. Eventually, they stop asking. Eventually, you stop apologizing. One evening, the new officer repeats his question. Do you ever feel guilty? You look at him and see yourself before the first compromise becomes a habit. You answer carefully. Guilt is only useful if it changes the decision. He nods like he understands. He does not. But he will. Level 6. The Station Chief. The embassy party begins at 8 p.m. By 8:17, you know which diplomat drinks too quickly, which defense attaché is lying about his schedule, which journalist is being paid by 2 governments, and which member of your own staff is hiding a mistake. You stand near the balcony with a glass of water and control more than anyone in the room realizes. At Level 6, you become Station Chief. A city becomes your board. Your station operates from the upper floors of an embassy compound. Analysts, case officers, technical teams, surveillance units, liaison contacts, translators, security staff, and cutouts who never enter the building. Officially, you manage intelligence operations in the region. Unofficially, you manage consequences. Every morning begins with a 6:30 briefing. overnight intercepts, asset updates, political risk, surveillance reports, financial movements, threat warnings, personnel issues. By 7:15, you are already deciding which problems deserve truth and which require silence. Headquarters wants results. The ambassador wants deniability. Your officers want protection. Your assets want promises. Local partners want favors. Enemies want mistakes. Everyone wants something. You become the person who decides which need matters most. Station chief power feels different from field power. You no longer run through streets or sit across from trembling sources. You approve operations, redirect budgets, bury failures, protect careers, end careers, and decide when someone else must take a risk you do not personally face. That distance changes you. At first, you hate it. Then you need it. A young officer named Caleb makes an error during a surveillance handoff. Nobody dies, but an asset network becomes vulnerable. Headquarters demands accountability. Caleb is talented, loyal, and careless in exactly the way young officers often are. You can protect him, or sacrifice him to protect the station. You remember Pavel. You remember Glass Orchard. You remember all the times someone above you calls a human being an acceptable loss. Then you sign the recommendation transferring Caleb to a desk role permanently, not destroyed, not saved, managed. That is what authority does. It replaces emotional choices with administrative ones. At level 6, you learn the 6th rule. Leadership is not freedom. Leadership is becoming the place where everyone else's fear stops. Your staff watches your face during crises. If you panic, the station fractures. If you hesitate, officers fill the silence with their own survival instincts. So you become calm by force. Calm during bomb threats. Calm during arrests. Calm when an asset misses check-in. Calm when headquarters asks whether you are prepared to deny involvement in an operation you personally approved. The mask becomes useful, then permanent. By your 3rd year as station chief, you can ruin a career with one sentence, save an operation with one phone call, and shift $2.4 million in covert funding before lunch. You have power. You also have fewer choices than ever. Because every decision now belongs partly to the system that gave you the authority to make it. Level 7. The Deputy Director for Operations. The room has no windows, no phones, no names on the door, only a polished table, 12 chairs, and a wall screen showing live crisis maps from 5 continents. At level 7, you become Deputy Director for Operations. You no longer control one city. You control networks. Stations answer to regional chiefs. Regional chiefs answer to directors. Directors now wait for your approval before operations move from possibility to reality. Your signature becomes invisible but decisive. A drone does not launch until your office clears the intelligence chain. A source does not receive relocation without your authorization. A foreign service does not get sensitive access unless you accept the risk. Entire operations live or die inside briefing papers you read at 5:40 a.m. with black coffee and no expression. The scale becomes difficult to feel. That is the danger. At lower levels, consequences have faces. Pavel has shaking hands. Layla has cold eyes. Caleb has a career you quietly end. At level 7, consequences arrive as numbers. 3 compromised assets, 17 detained dissidents, $42 million redirected, 6 governments affected, 2 public statements prepared in advance. Numbers are easier to move than people. You know this. You move them anyway. The political leadership wants a hostile regime weakened without open conflict. The military wants certainty. Diplomats want plausible distance. Your agency wants operational control. The press wants truth, but only after truth becomes safe to publish. You build the plan between all of them, not because you trust anyone, because you understand everyone's fear. That becomes your real power. At level 7, you do not command through volume. You command through leverage. You know which senator has a private security concern, which general needs a success before retirement, which foreign minister is terrified of scandal, which allied service is desperate for technology you can provide or withhold. You stop forcing doors open. You make people open them for you. The old illusion of control returns in a more sophisticated form. You sit above the map and begin believing distance equals mastery. Then an operation in North Africa collapses in a way no model predicts. A source switches sides. A local commander acts early. A journalist receives footage nobody knows exists. By morning, 3 countries blame each other. By noon, your office prepares denials. By evening, you approve a containment strategy that protects the agency and abandons 2 people who trust your flag more than they should. You do not sleep that night. Not from guilt. From calculation. That is when you understand how far the system carries you. You no longer fear becoming cruel. You fear becoming inefficient. Level 8. The director. The building applauds when you enter. You hate it immediately. At level 8, you become director. The highest chair. The final signature. The face of a machine designed to have no face. People call you untouchable now, but they are wrong. You're touched by everything. Every scandal, every success, every hidden failure, every officer captured in a country that will deny holding them, every asset asking for extraction, every minister demanding certainty from a world built on uncertainty. Nothing reaches you clean. Every truth arrives edited by fear. Your office sits on the 7th floor behind 3 security checkpoints and a door that closes without sound. The desk is larger than necessary. The windows overlook the Capitol. On clear mornings, the city looks peaceful enough to make the entire profession feel imaginary. Then the first briefing begins. A cyber intrusion traced to an ally. A missing field officer in Southeast Asia. A financial network tied to a hostile service. A covert program exceeding its original authority. A congressional inquiry that knows too little but suspects too much. A president asking one question with no clean answer. You have spent your career rising toward power. Now, power feels like reduced movement. You cannot speak freely because markets shift when your words are interpreted. You cannot show anger because subordinates turn emotion into policy. You cannot trust praise because everyone praising you wants protection. You cannot trust criticism because everyone criticizing you wants leverage. At level 8, the final rule reveals itself. Ultimate power is not doing whatever you want. Ultimate power is having fewer honest conversations than anyone alive. The agency becomes your body. Stations are nerves. Analysts are memory. Case officers are hands. Assets are exposed skin. Politicians are weather. Enemies are pressure systems moving beyond the horizon. You feel all of it. And still you are alone. Old faces return at strange times. Pavel in the cafe. Mara in Prague. Layla across a polished table. Caleb waiting for you to save him. The journalist whose reputation you destroy before you understand how easy destruction becomes. You do not see them as ghosts. You see them as architecture. Every compromise becomes a beam holding up the life you now occupy. That is the cost. Not that you lose yourself all at once. That would be merciful. You lose yourself in approved language, necessary decisions, classified annexes, sealed hearings, and quiet rooms where everyone agrees the public version must be simpler than the truth. Years pass. Your hair grays at the temples. Your name appears in newspapers beside words like stability, controversy, leadership, secrecy. People who have never carried a dead operation in their chest decide what kind of person you are. They are all wrong. So are the people who admire you. So are the people who hate you. Nobody knows you well enough anymore to be accurate. One night, at 2:13 a.m., a file appears on your desk. Recruitment candidate. 24 years old. Sharp pattern recognition. Clean background. High stress tolerance. Limited emotional attachments. You read the assessment twice. Then you approve the contact. Across the city, a phone begins ringing in a dark apartment. A young analyst wakes up confused, vulnerable, and ambitious. They do not know about burn bags, dead drops, ruined reputations, abandoned assets, station politics, windowless rooms, or the loneliness waiting at the top. They think the car outside is an opportunity. You know better. It is the beginning of a trade, a life for access, a name for a function, freedom for power. The phone keeps ringing. Eventually, they answer, and the system begins again.